Welcome to this week's edition of World Crisis Radio. This is Webster Tarpley speaking from Washington, D.C. Welcome to our special pre-Christmas program. We're taping here in the afternoon of Thursday, December 23rd, 2010, and it happens to be one of the greatest world historical anniversaries of the last 1,000 years at least, and an occasion for us to regroup our forces in order to assert the needs of civilization and indeed of culture against the myrmidons of finance capital, the reactionary barbarians who are now at the gates, the Wall Street operatives, the forces of evil left and right. And this is the birthday, well, not the birthday, but it's the anniversary of the conception of the modern state, not of the birth, but of the beginning of a process of gestation. And as I speak to you, it's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon here Eastern Time, and it's just about 700 years ago, right now, to the hour, that the Emperor Henry VII of Luxembourg entered the city of Milan in northern Italy and set into motion the process leading to the first prototype of the modern state. And the significance of this, the reason that we know a great deal about it, is because this is a political operation supported most vehemently and most energetically by the great poet Dante Alighieri. This is Dante's emperor, Dante's candidate to restore the authority of the Holy Roman Empire in northern Italy. And the immediate effect of this is not a success in the terms that Dante might have defined it in advance, but a huge success nonetheless in the extent that the government, the regime that emerged in Milan as a result of the events of 700 years ago right now, today, December 23rd, in the early evening, this government is the Visconti family regime in Milan, which by about 1390, 1400, 1401, 1402, had produced the Milanese state of Gian Galeazzo Visconti, the prototype of the modern state, the original, if you will, from which Louis XI of France in the 1460s and Henry VII of England a decade or two later copied. And it was this Milanese state that brings together the ingredients of the modern polity that we need to preserve, because it is under unprecedented attack by the financiers, by the forces of neo-feudalism, with their left-wing legions, their Obama Kool-Aid cult, and their right-wing legions, their Tea Party fanatics, right-wing anarchists, the cokeheads, the kochheads, the koch fiends out there on the extreme right. And, of course, proto-fascist elements strong in both of these coalitions, both of them at war with the U.S. Constitution, both of them profoundly hostile to American traditions in that sense. No conservatives to be seen, only reactionaries of the extreme right and fanatics of the left, the radical environmentalists in particular. So the Emperor Henry VII was carrying out a traditional process of having been elected Holy Roman Emperor. His next step was then to go to Milan and the nearby suburb of Monza and get crowned with the Iron Crown of Lombardy to become the King of Lombardy, meaning in a large sense northern Italy. He would then go on to Rome to be crowned as Holy Roman Emperor. It happened in this Basilica of St. John Lateran, which was under the control of the one of the two families, the Orsini and the Colonna, who were fighting. So you had one family in control of St. John Lateran and the other one in control of St. Peter's. The ones that controlled St. Peter's were the anti-imperial. They were the Guelphs, but the Ghibellines, the pro-imperial forces, were in control of St. John Lateran. So that's where the coronation took place. Unfortunately, the Pope was not there because he had become a captive of King Philip the Fair of France. This was the Babylonian captivity of the papacy, which had just begun in those days, which was going to go on for most of the 1300s. But the idea is that when Henry VII and his small armed force, a couple of thousand troops at the most, entered the gates of Milan, the government they found there was a Guelph regime, a politically decrepit Guelph regime of the Torriani family. And the Torriani were taking Milan nowhere fast. The policy of Henry VII, as Dante had hoped, was to favor the return of internal exiles. That is, a Guelph city would kick out the Ghibellines. The idea was they should go back. A Ghibelline city would kick out the Guelphs. They should also be allowed to go back. So reconciliation, law and order, and an end to this constant quasi-civil war between the two gangs, really, Guelphs and Ghibellines, not having too much to do with the nominal devotion of the Guelphs to the papacy or the nominal devotion of the Ghibellines to the Holy Roman Emperor, but really just being a conflict of two gangs over the spoils. So the idea was to bring an end to that. That was the hope that Dante had. If we look at the Divine Comedy, right in the beginning, the first canto, we find the prophecy that Dante is confronted by three beasts who put him into extreme difficulty. He's lost in the wood of error in the middle of his life, and he's confronted, first of all, by a lion, pride, then by a leopard, lust, and then, most dangerously of all, by a wolf. And the wolf is the symbol of avarice, the love of money, greed, radix malorum est cupiditas, the love of money, the greed for money, is the root of all evil. And that's the one that he can't deal with. He can deal with pride, he can deal with the leopard of incontinence, but not the wolf. So when Virgil arrives, Virgil tells him, a greyhound is coming that is going to kill this wolf of greed and usury and exploitation, in effect. And that greyhound is the Emperor Henry VII. And this Divine Comedy, of course, filled with prophecies, references, in particular the entire Purgatory, the entire second part, very much devoted to the political atmosphere of the coming of Henry VII into northern Italy. And again, Dante's idea did not succeed in its own terms. There was a backlash on the part of the Guelph cities against Henry VII. The Ghibelline cities welcomed him. These were places like Verona, like Pisa, like Arezzo, like Mantua, Modena. Those were the Ghibellines. They were immediately on his side. But the larger group, the Guelph cities, the so-called pro-papal ones, soon formed a league. And at the center of the league was Florence, the city that had expelled Dante, made him into an exile about 7 years earlier in 1303. So Dante writes about Henry VII in the Divine Comedy. He also devotes 3 of his Latin letters to the praise of Henry VII as the savior of Italy, somebody who's going to bring a reordering of this terrible latent civil war going on between the Guelphs and the Ghibellines. That's letter 5, letter 6, and letter 7. Letter 5 says the emperor is coming. The new Moses, the savior of Italy, is at hand. Letter 6 is the story that there's a resistance against him, and these people are going to be defeated. The Florentines, in particular, despite their fortifications, are going to be defeated. And the 7th is that Henry should not waste time going after the smaller cities. He should march directly on Florence, Dante's own home. This is a example of rising above narrow devotions towards the cause of civilization in general. And we'll be back in a minute.